All right, so we are going to start with problem number 9. We're going to put all of this stuff together that we've been talking about over the last several days. What we're trying to do in number 9 is find all of the zeros. Okay, so we want to find where it's equal to 0. It's the same thing as finding the x-intercepts. Now, on this problem, when we did these before, we were trying to factor them. You can try and factor this by grouping, but I can tell you right now it's not going to work. Okay, so our factoring techniques do not work for this. So what we need to do is we need to figure out the zeros another way. So we're going to start by listing all of the rational zeros, and we're going to just guess and check until we find one that works. Once we find one that works, we're going to do it through synthetic division to get a depressed polynomial, and then we are hopefully going to factor that and find the rest of the zeros. Okay, so this is all stemming back from the problem that we cannot factor this and find the zeros. So first, we're going to list all of the possible rational zeros. We're going to list the factors of 21, which are 1, 3, 7, and 21. Then we have to divide those by the factors of our leading coefficient, which is just 1. So all of those divided by 1 didn't really change anything, so we don't have to worry about that. So these are possible zeros. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to guess and check. And I would strongly encourage you to use your calculator to do this. I'm going to plug in 1. So in the calculator, I would do 1 cubed plus 3 times 1 squared minus 25 times 1 plus 21. And we are just trying to find one that works. And this one actually does. Yay. Okay, first try. All right, so we know that 1 is a factor. Okay, we just found that out. 1 is a factor. Or 1 is a 0, not a factor. Okay. Which means that x minus 1 is a factor. So we can use that information to get a depressed polynomial. So what we're going to do is we're going to run that 0 that we just found through synthetic division. 1, 3, negative 25, 21. All right, see how much room I have here. So when we run this through synthetic division, we're going to multiply and add, and multiply and add, and multiply and add. And remember, we better get 0 because we already said we would. So then our depressed polynomial is x squared plus 4x minus 21. And now we're going to see if we can factor that further, which I think we can. Let's see, our signs are going to be different. We are looking for factors of negative 21 that add up to 4. So I think 7 and 3. And then when we set both of those equal to 0, we get x equals negative 7, x equals 3, and then remember the one we found from guessing and checking, x equals 1. Those are the 3 zeros of our function, 1, 3, and negative 7. Now, to demonstrate this, we can come over here to Desmos. I already graphed it here on Desmos. So our zeros were 1, 3, and negative 7, just like we said. So those are going to be the x-intercepts, and then the rest of the graph is there as well. Okay, let's do our last one. So we want to find all the zeros of this function. So what we're going to do is we're going to list all of the rational zeros, okay? Because this, I don't know if it's factorable. It might be factorable, but we'll try it this way. So our rational zeros are, looking at the factors of that, so 1, 2, and 4. Then we have to divide by the factors of that, which are 1, 3, and 9. All right, so then we take everything in the numerator and divide it by 1, which is just 1, 2, and 4. And we take everything in the numerator and divide it by 3, so we get 1/3, 2/3, and 4/3. And then we take everything in the numerator and divide it by 9. So we get 1/9, 2/9, and 4/9. And those are what we need to guess and check with. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to take our original function and do this in your calculator, please. We want to plug stuff in until we get equal to 0. So I'm going to plug in like 1. So when I plug that in, do I get 0? And I definitely don't. And then I'm going to try -1. So when I plug it into the calculator, do I get 0? And again, I don't. So then let's see, I tried both of those. Those didn't work. So then I'm going to plug in 2. When I plug that in, I do not get 0. If I plug in -2, I also don't get 0. So those didn't work. All right. Next, we're going to plug in 4. That definitely doesn't give me 0, and neither does -4. So those are out. All right. Okay, again, I'm doing this all on my calculator, I don't have a calculator to show you. Then I'm going to plug in 1/3. I don't think that works. And -1/3 doesn't work either. So I'm going to try the next one. I'm going to plug in 2/3, and I think, let me double check this on the calculator. Yes, that one actually works. So 2/3 is one of my zeros. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run 2/3 through synthetic division. So I have 9x to the 4th, 0x cubed, 5x squared, 0x, and -4. All right. So I'm going to multiply. Gives me 6, and add. I'm going to multiply and add. I'm going to multiply and add. And I'm going to multiply and add. That's just going to be 0. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but -2/3 would also work. So we actually have 2 zeros that we know, 2/3 and -2/3. So we can do synthetic division again. And we could just keep doing this because my depressed polynomial right now would be x cubed. I don't really want that. So we'll do synthetic division just on this. So that's going to give us, let's see, -6, 0. I'm going to multiply and add. And then multiply and add, and that's just going to be the remainder. So I have done synthetic division twice. Remember, I started with an x to the 4th, and I did synthetic division twice. So that means this answer is going to be 9x squared and 0x plus 9. Let me write that over here. 9x squared plus 0x plus 9. So if we set that equal to 0, we can find our other zeros. I need more space, so let me put that up here where there's a little more room. So 9x squared plus 9. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. I'm going to divide by 9. I'm going to take the square root. Remember, if you introduce the square root, it's plus or minus, and the square root of -1 is I. So my zeros are plus or minus I and plus or minus 2/3. Now, I think I have this graphed on Desmos. Let's see. Yeah, it's over here. Okay. So here are plus or minus 2/3, and of course, plus or minus I is not going to show up on the graph. So that is how we put all of this together. These are big, messy problems. I realize that, not super fun, but it does work. Okay, so we list out all of those rational zeros, we guess and check till we find one, get a depressed polynomial, and finish factoring.